Back when I was a kid, there was 5 different things that I loved in the world. Wrestling, action flicks, kung fu, robots, and swords. Power Rangers gave me 4 out of 5 things, although they were wearing spandex, so 4.5. After watching the first episode, I was hooked. I loved it. I used to watch it every day before going to school when it was on Fox Kids. I used to have the Dragon Zord and a Turbo Megazord. Then I started to watch Super Sentai, which was the Japanese source material that they used for the fight scenes in Power Rangers. But I'm not going to go too far into that because it's common knowledge at this point. It's like the Super Mario 2 Doki Doki Panic of Tokusatsu. Yes, we get it. The Yellow Ranger, who was a woman in Power Rangers, is actually a guy named Boy. We get it. But it's not as annoying as, did you know that the Black Ranger is a black guy and the Yellow Ranger is an Asian? Whoa, that's totally weird. Oh, childhood ruined. Yes, yes, we know. We also got the fingerprints joke from Animaniacs. But I digress. I just want to sit here and talk about my favorite TV show, which started in 1975 and grew until almost 50 seasons to this day. It's like on its 48th. Also, not to mention, they did cover a few wrestling things too. So that's everything in my little wheelhouse all smashed into one series. And I loved it. A couple of weeks ago, my friend asked me about Super Sentai, which threw me through a loop because none of my friends in my group likes what I like. My interests are very niche, but he decided to just break the barrier and ask me about it. He asked which season I liked and if we could actually watch the couple episodes. We ended up watching Jetman, and while I was telling him everything about it, he just said, "Why don't you make a video out of this?" And here we are. First thing that comes into my head is how Super Sentai boosts my imagination. When I was a kid, when I watched like a superhero show, I would imagine myself as a hero, and then I'd think to myself, okay, what's my superpower? What's my backstory? What do I wear? Do I have a talking dog sidekick named Chow? Of course, it was probably because of all the colors and the fancy explosions and the cool weaponry and robots. I even got some artwork commissioned for my Donut Steel original characters. Next is the perceived maturity of Super Sentai compared to Power Rangers. Now, I'm not saying, oh man, they have blood and death and swearing, and they talk about having sex with ladies while drinking scotch. They kinda do, but it's not like that. It has elements that the whole family could enjoy. And it's not just lessons about not telling lies and doing your homework. And oh no, giant B because I got a B in math class. I love the music. You could actually find the openings and closing songs of every season of Super Sentai on Spotify. They have a huge playlist, and it's all official. On occasion, I catch myself singing parts of it too, like Dash, Dash, Oh Ranger. Which brings us to my next point, the inside jokes. For example, in Jetman, during the end credits, they have a scrolling look at Air Force propaganda brochures. And in these brochures, the main casts are like models. The camera pans past them, and it comes past the Yellow Ranger writer. And he's sitting at a table with a big plate of steak. Big old text that says, "Eat steak." Then it comes up to the Black Ranger guy. And he's in between two ladies, and the big text over his head says, "Cool guy." So when the footage pans over to both those two, me and my friends would just say, "Eat steak, cool guy." At the end of the day, it's just silly fun. and I'm planning on keeping it that way. For me, I have two rules. One of them is always remember the key demographic, especially if it's like a show that is a cartoon show or it's a show that's normally targeted to kids. Please, and I cannot stress this enough, do not go on Twitter and complain to the show writers that you do not like the direction Power Rangers is going in the current season. Because holy shit, it's for kids and you're in your 20s. You should be out doing something with your life instead of complaining about a children's show and bothering the people who make it. Touch grass. My second rule involves suggestions and recommending shows to a friend. I'm pretty sure this happened to you once. Your friend suggests anime. So you give it a go. You watch at least 4 episodes to get a feel of it. You come back and they're like, oh wait, no. It doesn't get good until episode 8. The season goes for 12 episodes. What do you mean? You might as well tell me to watch the whole thing. At that point, it's no longer a suggestion and more homework. So rule number 2, do not make it into homework. I say this because a couple of years back I broke those 2 rules and I really feel bad about it. I asked my friend if she would like to do a podcast with me. I know, podcast, first red flag, and she was down with it because she wanted to watch Super Sentai with me because it's silly fun. And the concept of it was I would introduce a newbie fan into my fandom. She thought it was one of those YouTube reaction channel things, but it wasn't. It was a podcast. But saying that it was a podcast was a generous thing because it was basically a book on tape. What I would do was just write down scene by scene what the guy's doing, why is he doing it, how he felt while doing it. Scene by scene, it was just god awful. And I had her read out this script. It just sounded horrible. The podcast is still up if you want to have a look at it, but be forewarned, it was terrible. What was supposed to be fun turned into homework. And she didn't need it. She was already doing a 9 to 5 job, and she would have to come home on Wednesdays to do recording stuff. She also had other personal plans. She barely had any time to herself, and at that point, luckily she shook me out of it. It's like, could we talk about this? I don't feel this is fun anymore. And I was feeling it too. It became work. So I took this hobby, took it a little bit too seriously, and then I made it into work. Once I mentioned Super Sentai and actually watching one of the movies to her, that we were planning on doing it, until she just flat out said, I don't like it anymore. It made me feel like crap, because one, I made her feel like that, and it was terrible. And secondly, I basically killed any interest in bringing in a new person to share my hobby. So if I didn't tell her this before, and if I did, I just want to say it again. I am so sorry. That was bad. We should have just sat there and watched the show like normal people, not making it into a thing, not making it into content. Not everything has to be content. And to my other friend who actually decided to give Super Sentai a go and wants me involved with it, just let me know if I'm going a little bit too much into it. Trying not to steer you away from my hobby. I need more people to like my stuff. Speaking of liking stuff, they have their own channel called Game and Chat. Both my friends that I'm talking about. They play video games. They talk a lot of crap. It's super fun and you should really go check them out. I'll leave a I'll leave their channel in my description. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to sit here and talk about my favorite key interest, Power Rangers and Super Sentai. Maybe next time I'll actually go into a season or two. Go into why I like those so much. I don't really have an outro. This is like the first video I've actually done. So, eat steak, you cool guys.